That's really the heart and the meat of our message this morning is truly being present and real and showing up and being authentic and allowing the spirit within, to have its way with us every single moment. That there isn't anything more important. There isn't anything in the world more important than being present. Yeah. Yeah, amen. So in our exploration so far this month, we have already traveled a pretty interesting road. In our first Sunday, we asked, what fuels you? We explored the difference between living a transactional life and living a transformational life. We talked about moving from potential into power, recognizing that there is something within us that is greater than our current circumstances. Then last Sunday, we talked about what happens when transformation actually gets underway. Remember what we said about how you know that transformation's having its way with you? What happens? Anybody remember that? Anybody? Bueller? Anybody? Come on. What happens? What happens when the transformation starts having its way with you? Little pop quiz. Yeah, right? How do we know? Well, what we talked about last Sunday is chemicalization, right? When you pray for peace and suddenly everyone in your life decides to become a spiritual practice. Or when you affirm abundance, right? Or when you affirm abundance and you're like, what was that noise my car just made? Remember that? And then when you say, I'm releasing control, and life says, excellent, here's a situation you absolutely cannot control. That's what we talked about last week, that whole chemicalization. Sometimes transformation doesn't initially look or feel like transformation. It can look like disruption. It can feel like discomfort. It can cause old emotions that we thought we had already dealt with and blessed and put to bed and blessed and released. It can call for all of that to come up to truly be transformed. And so today we are taking the next step. Instead of judgment about any and all of that and any and all of everything, we choose self-awareness. Transformation is not about changing what is happening around us. It's about changing the consciousness with which we meet what is happening. So I'm going to give you a little visual representation here. If you want to, yeah, I lost the power of the slides this week. So we're fully into transformation now, aren't we? So here, take a look at this picture. You've got an elephant. So the elephant, let's talk about the elephant in the room, right? We've got the elephant, and then you've got several folks here that have their eyes closed. So this is a very symbolic picture. Their eyes are closed, and this one over here, all the way to the left, says, an elephant is like a big snake. And he's saying that, of course, because he's holding the trunk of the elephant, right? Actually, no, says the guy next to him. It's a tree stump. And he says that because he's holding the elephant's foot. And then the one next to him saying, what are you all saying? It's like a sheath of leather. And he's saying that because he's holding the elephant's ear. And then the one at the very end says, you are all wrong. It's actually like a little furry mouse. And he's saying that because he's holding the elephant's tail. So what can we take from that slide? They're all right to them. According to them, they are all right, according to their experience in the moment. Very good. They're not seeing the whole picture or experiencing the whole picture. And then what did you say, Rose?
We create our reality.
We create our reality. Yes, we do.
And they do have their eyes closed.
Yes, they do. So we spend much of our lives observing other people, observing what we're feeling and touching and experiencing that may not be the whole picture, but we spend our entire lives observing. And in that observation, there's a tendency to notice mistakes. There's a tendency to notice their contradictions, weaknesses, choices that other people make. One of the most difficult things in life is learning to observe ourselves with the same honesty that we observe others. Would you all agree to that? Maybe just a little bit. Be willing to agree to that. Self-awareness isn't about criticizing yourself. It's about having the courage to ask, why did I react that way? What am I refusing to accept? Am I defending my behavior or learning from it? Is the person I'm becoming someone I respect? Because growth becomes difficult, really nearly impossible, when every mistake has an excuse and every uncomfortable truth has someone else to blame. Let's go to the next slide, please. In this slide, it says, here's a humbling moment, folks. To learn anything, you must put aside the safety of your ignorance. To learn anything, you must put aside the safety of your ignorance. Sometimes the greatest obstacle standing between who we are and who we could become is the version of ourselves that we are unwilling to question. Is there something within you that you are unwilling to question, or maybe have shied away from questioning? We don't need to have everything figured out. Actually, life is way more fun when we don't have everything figured out. What we do need is we need the courage to look inward. We need the courage to ask the questions that we've been shying away from inwardly. Because the moment that we can examine ourselves without immediately defending ourselves, we give ourselves something incredibly powerful: the opportunity to transform. What is one thing that you understand about yourself today that you didn't understand 5 years ago? And just take that question in. You don't have to answer out loud if you don't want to, but think about that for a minute. What is one thing that you understand about yourself today that you didn't understand 5 years ago? Who here has heard of the book, The Four Pivots by Dr. Sean Wright? That would be my husband waving his hand. He knows that because for a couple of years I lived, eat, and breathed this book, because I helped to co-facilitate a book study globally on the Four Pivots, and got to meet Dr. Sean at one of the conferences that I participated in a few years ago. And so I am very familiar with Dr. Sean's pivots, and I'm also what do I want to say about this word? I'm like in love with the word pivot. I love that word. But I want to tell you a little bit about Dr. Sean. He writes primarily about leadership, healing, and social change. That's his jam. Leadership, healing, and social change. And it's my jam too, has been for a long time. And his message resonates deeply with metaphysical teachings because it recognizes that transformation begins with a transformation of consciousness. So rather than asking, how do we fix this problem? He asks, how do we become people who create healing wherever we go? How do we become people who can see and bring about and collectively breathe into existence the solutions of what we're desiring? And so that's the meat and the heart of it. So let's go back, though, to this word that I just absolutely love, and that's the word pivot or pivoting. It's one of my most favorite words. But think about the word pivot. It really got its start in the limelight from that one Friends episode. Do you all remember that Friends episode when they're carrying the sofa up the stairs? Let's go to the next slide, please. And Ross is going, pivot, pivot, pivot. They're trying to get this huge sofa up this small, tiny little stair. Anybody remember that episode? A few of you? Good. So that's when that word really got its limelight. In exploring this idea of pivot, we discover that it isn't about throwing everything out and starting over. Boy, that would be exhausting now, wouldn't it? That's a little overwhelming to even try to think about. It's not about that at all. No, a pivot is a small, intentional shift in your direction that over time leads you to a completely new and way more hopeful destination. So can y'all get behind me on that word pivot a little bit? Yeah, I love that word pivot. It's like we just need to pivot. Say what again, love? Sure. Well, I don't know if it's Webster's definition. It's a made up definition, but pivot is a small intentional shift in your direction that over time leads you to a completely new and way more hopeful destination. So this is where I want to introduce you to Sean's first pivot in his book, From Lens to Mirror. This pivot emphasizes self-reflection before analyzing others, before critiquing and judging and analyzing others or systems or organizations or the world or the government. Oh my goodness. Instead of immediately critiquing external problems, individuals are encouraged to examine their own assumptions, their own biases, their roles in social change. It draws on the idea that meaningful transformation begins with personal responsibility and awareness, fostering deeper empathy and connection. So there's 4 things there: personal responsibility, awareness, empathy, and connection. It's juicy stuff. Y'all with me? Yeah. So the lens. So think about it as a camera. Think about it as a camera lens. And what direction does the camera lens point? Outward. Yes. So the lens looks outward. The mirror looks inward. And that sounds simple, right? Outward, inward. It sounds simple until we actually try it. Because most of us are extraordinarily good at the lens. I bet we got some total pros in here with the lens part. I confess, I used to be a total pro in the lens part, but I've been doing my best to not be so good at it. We notice other people's mistakes, their contradictions, their behaviors, their shortcomings, their political opinions, their parenting, their driving. You can continue with that list all you want. And that's the lens part of us. But Sean asks us to take that same capacity for observation and turn it inward. Oh, like using the power for good here, right? He asks, what do I need to heal? Who do I need to become to create the world I want? What patterns am I repeating? And what am I afraid to see? Those are just some of the questions of exploration in regards to this pivot. Sean describes the lens. Now remember, the lens is the camera, is the ability to analyze the world and understand what's happening around us. He doesn't say that the lens is bad, not at all. We kind of need to know the world and what's around us. Yet he says that the lens alone is insufficient. The mirror asks us to engage in the deeper work of reflecting and healing. The mirror doesn't lie, folks. Right? How many of you understand what I mean by that? The mirror doesn't lie, right? So this phrase emphasizes honest self-reflection. It suggests that while you can hide from others or make excuses, your own reflection reveals your true self, your habits, your choices, your fears, your progress. Facing this truth can be uncomfortable, but it is essential for personal growth, discipline, and self-awareness. The mirror acts as a metaphysical tool, showing not only physical appearance, but also the patterns and behaviors that define your life. Have you ever walked past a mirror and thought, oh, that can't be right? Has that ever happened? And suddenly the mirror becomes an adversary. Where did that come from? We say. The mirror didn't do it. The mirror simply told the truth. And spiritual mirrors work the same. Sometimes the person who irritates us is the mirror, or the situation that triggers us is the mirror, or the reoccurring problem is the mirror, or the one thing that we keep complaining about, that's the mirror, folks. Not because everything's our fault, though, so please don't take that as the message. Everything is not your fault. Everything is not our fault. That's not new thought. That's spiritual self-blame. That's metaphysical malpractice, and we do not do that here. What I am saying is that the mirror isn't asking you to ask what's wrong with me. It's asking you to ask what is mine to see. You see, things catch our attention because we're being fully supported in our evolution and transformation. So when we switch to what is mine to see about whatever it is that we're noticing and observing, then we get to mine the gold that's in that. Here, let me share with you a story by Sean. Sean shares an example of this kind of mirror work that he, in this story, it arose from a community meeting of a lot of nonprofits and funders that came together. They came together and met often, regularly. And in this particular meeting that happened regularly, people were frustrated. They were frustrated about funding. There wasn't enough volunteers. There were interpersonal disagreements. And as often happens in organizations and communities, everyone had a very good explanation for why things weren't working. The lens was working overtime. It's the lack of funding, one person said. It's the government, another person said. It's the organization, the other person said. It's those people, somebody else said. And then someone who had been a part of the community for many, many years stood up and essentially pointed out a pattern. He said, you know what? 20 years ago, we had a meeting and we were blaming this particular source for the problem. 10 years ago, we had a meeting and we blamed this other source. And now we're having the same conversation again. His question was essential. Who will we be blaming 20 years from now? That was a pivot. Not because there weren't any real external problems. There were. But the mirror introduced a different question. What can we do differently? Is there maybe a different way of looking at this or a different way to be in conversation about this? Let's go to the next slide, please. Rumi says this, one of my most favorite quotes, out beyond the ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field, and I will meet you there. That is a great quote for explaining the first pivot from lens to mirror. Jen Wright describes this as moving from simply analyzing external conditions toward holding ourselves accountable for how we work together. Because sometimes transformation begins when we stop asking, who is responsible for this? And start asking, what is my responsibility here? Notice the difference? Now, we might think looking inward means giving up our power, when actually it's exactly the opposite. If everything is someone else's fault, then someone else has all the power. If my happiness depends upon you changing, you have the power. If my peace depends upon circumstances behaving properly, then the circumstances have the power. If my sense of worth depends upon somebody approving of me, they have the power. Yet when I ask, what is mine to change? I reclaim something. I reclaim choice. Let's go to the other side. So I shared this slide last week. I'm going to share it again. The old self reflects. The awakened self observes. The higher self chooses. The old self reacts. And did you notice that I said reflects first? It's like I'm trying to get that old self to grow. I said it wrong. The old self reacts, the awakened self observes, and the higher self chooses. We are not our experiences or conditions. We are spirit, an expression of divine intelligence, unlimited in nature. And looking within doesn't mean becoming your own spiritual critic. Some of us have enough inner critics already. We don't need another one. We don't need to look in the mirror and say, well, that's disappointing. Apparently, I'm not enlightened enough. That's not what I'm talking about, folks. The purpose of self-awareness is not self-condemnation. It is self-understanding. And there is a tremendous difference between what's wrong with me to what is happening within me. What is happening within me? What is happening within you? Between why do I always do this and what is this pattern trying to show me? Or I shouldn't feel this. What is this feeling asking me to understand? That is sacred awareness. And sacred awareness creates space. Space between stimulus and response. Space between emotion and action. Space between old programming and new possibility. And in that space, spirit can enter. So a beloved shiro of mine, I'm going to cry, Dr. Rachel Naomi Rimmon, passed away last Saturday. I knew about it Sunday, but I couldn't talk about it. She is such an amazing soul. Anybody in this room know Dr. Rachel Naomi Rimmon? And if you don't know, please check out her books. Kitchen Table Wisdom, My Grandfather's Blessing. Oh, she's just an amazing, brilliant, bright light. I met her for the first time in 1996 at the Integrating Alternative Health Symposium. So with her passing away, one of my sheroes, her essences and stories has made a profound impact on me over the years. She tells a story that I'm going to share with you now of an emergency room doctor. And first, let me say a little bit more about Rachel. Rachel was diagnosed at the age of 15 with Crohn's disease and was not given much time to live, said that she had maybe 5-10 years to live with her condition and the severity that she had. And over the course of her life, bless you, over the course of her life, she had eight major surgeries to, address and support and help and assist with what was going on with her physically. And as you know, she went on to become a doctor, and she went on to be an incredible mentor to doctors and people all over the world. Karen Drucker was one of her best friends, and she mentored Karen Drucker. And they did little conferences all the time, especially during COVID. So the thing about Rachel is she learned from going through that very transformative experience of her health at such an early age. She learned a lot of what I'm talking about regarding this first pivot, and about the importance of empathy and compassion and being open to what is happening in the moment and going within and questioning, what does this mean for me? How can I grow through this? So anyway, she's just absolutely amazing, and I recommend checking out her stories. But I'm going to share one of them with you, quick one. She tells a story of an emergency room doctor who is under constant stress, but he's proud of his mastery of medical skills. He likes working in the ER because he likes to be fast on his feet and know all the different things that you got to know and do when you're working the ER, because you never know what's going to come through the door. Well, one day, what came through the door was a woman that was in the process of getting ready to have a baby, and there was absolutely no time for her obstetrician to make it. So he knew that he was going to have to deliver her right there in the ER. And so it was a procedure that he likes to perform for the satisfaction that he took in doing it well. After the birth, he was holding the baby in his arms to suction her lungs when she opened her eyes and looked right into his. He felt deeply changed in that moment as he realized he was the first human being that she was seeing. It's like he caught him in that moment. And this man, usually focused on the technical process, he felt his heart go out to her. It took his breath away. He described this as a holy moment when all of his cynicism and fatigue just fell away. He felt not pride or satisfaction in his work, but a sense of gratitude that he had been there at that very moment. Could you imagine? I mean, my mom delivered babies for years, so she probably was the first human that saw a few babies. But could you imagine how sacred of a process that would be? To be the first person for a baby to open its eyes and look into yours and connect with you? How amazing. So he felt a sense of gratitude, and it gave him a new sense of purpose in what he did. Rachel tells us that he felt his heart go out to this child and welcome from all people everywhere, and tears came to his eyes. Think about what happened. The external circumstances had not changed. He was still in the emergency room. He was still a doctor. He still had the same skills, and he still had the same job. Yet his way of seeing was forever changed after that holy, sacred moment that he chose to share about. That's transformation. The moment of that newborn soul revealed life. It revealed wonder, connection, sacredness, service, love. Those are all the things that occurred when he looked into that newborn baby's eyes. A major goal of Rachel's work as a teacher was to help doctors understand through their experience how important their words and actions were to their patients by teaching them to find their own stories. She helped them trust and learn to trust the power of their personal presence and generous listening to heal. This applies to all of us, folks, not just doctors, but hallelujah that she's out there mentoring doctors to do that, right? Can I get an amen? Because we can certainly use more doctors that have that skill and have that desire. How many moments in our lives are we experiencing through the lens when Spirit is inviting us into the mirror? How many? How many did you have this morning? Did you have any lens experiences so far this morning that Spirit was gently nudging you into the mirror? Or maybe this past week? Or maybe this month? Because transformation's having its way with us? Maybe sometimes we look at our partner, not me though, because I don't look at my partner like this, but maybe we look at our partner and say, here we go again. What if the mirror asks, how am I showing up in this relationship? Maybe we look at our work and say, these people are impossible. What if the mirror asks, who am I becoming in this environment? We look at maybe a difficult family member and say, they'll never change. I have to say, we had another busy weekend. We had 2 events this weekend. So we were in here for drumming circle Friday night, and I heard somebody actually say that Friday night. They will never change. And I thought, I'll get it. That's your experience right now. But maybe there's always a chance. You did. I did. We did. Right? Over certain things. So what if the mirror asks, what boundary, forgiveness, compassion, or truth is being requested of me? We look at our lives and say, this isn't where I thought I would be. What if the mirror asks, what is still possible from here? How is this experience growing and evolving me? And again, this is not denying reality. It's about becoming conscious within reality. There's a psychiatrist named Irvin Yalom that has written extensively about meaning, authenticity, and ways human beings can avoid the fundamental questions of existence. One of those questions is, am I living the life that matters to me? Am I living the life that matters to me? Because I tell you, folks, if it doesn't matter to you, who does it matter to? Whose life are you living, right? Am I living the life that matters to me? Because regret is not always about the mistakes that we've made or we think we've made. Sometimes regret comes from the love that we've never expressed. Sometimes regret comes, from the love that we never expressed. Yesterday morning, I have to say, another friend, a previous congregant from the first community I pastored in 2007, passed away. I learned about it when I read his loving wife's tribute. And I snuggled with my hubby with a bit more passion and awareness that morning because I recounted in my mind, as soon as I saw her share, I recounted 3 husbands of dear friends that had passed away this year or in a year. And folks, these are friends of mine that are my age. They're close to my age. And they're dear friends that just lost their husbands this year. So of course I'm hugging and snuggling with my hubby, and I'm like, you're not going anywhere. You're not allowed to go anywhere. But what it did do for me is what I'm inviting us to do every moment of every day is just to be completely and totally aware and at choice of what we're aware of. To be aware of how we feel about those people in our lives, to be aware of how we feel about what we do and what our purpose is. And if it's something that makes you look like this, maybe there's some introspection that needs to take place. But if it makes you feel wonderful and open and alive and passionate and joyful and skipping and dancing, great. Because I have to say, I think the world needs more of that. And I'm inviting us to bring about more of that. Sometimes regret comes from the things that we never dared do, the adventure that we never took, the truth that we never spoke, the dream that we kept postponing, or the person we never allowed ourselves to be. Do you have a person within you that you're not allowing yourself to be that you really want to be? And if you do have a person within you that you really want to be, just know that we're here. We're here to support that and grow it and water it and provide it sunshine. It's possible, is my point. Anything and everything is possible. And so that brings me back to the mirror, because the mirror doesn't simply show us our wounds. It can show us our unlived life. It can show us possibilities. It can show us where we may be shrinking, where we've been performing, where we've been living according to someone else's definition of success. I don't know. We grow up and do the best we can, but sometimes we carry around shoulds that don't even belong to us. Sometimes we carry around definitions of things that aren't even ours. So that's why the mirror is so important. Where we've been comfortable instead of alive. And perhaps the question isn't how many years have I lived? Perhaps it's how deeply have I lived the years that I've been given? How deeply am I living this precious, amazing, incredible life that I am living right now? A friend of mine uses the French phrase, and I don't speak French, so I'm apologizing in advance. El etude de l'experience. It means, yeah, easy for me to say, right? It means the depth of experience. What if the richness of life isn't measured by how much we accumulate, but by how deeply we inhabit what we experience? How fully do we love? Because I tell you what, every day, my desire is to be loved. Every day it's to love and to live as fully as I possibly can. How fully do we love? How deeply do we listen? How courageously do we grow? And how often do we allow ourselves to be moved, to be changed, to be transformed? We are in the heart of it right now, folks, the heart of transformation. This is what it's about. Being aware, being present, being alive, choosing. The higher self chooses. And if you're not choosing, who's choosing? Who are you giving permission to? Jean Houston said, "It is the closing of the heart far more than the closing of the mind that keeps folk from transforming and deepening." So let's keep our hearts open, and let's open them a little bit more, and let's be willing to be vulnerable and courageous and authentic, and let's be willing to be supported in order to do that and to be that. Because transformation asks us not merely to understand something, it asks us to experience it differently, to open the heart, to become vulnerable, to allow life to touch us, to allow spirit to change us. The emergency room doctor knew how to deliver babies, but in that moment, he allowed himself to experience the meaning of what he was doing. When you're about doing during the day, do you allow yourself to experience the meaning of it? And what meaning does it have for you? Because you get to choose. And this is also why loving ourselves matters. Because when we feel good about ourselves, you follow me? When we feel good about ourselves, think about it. Think about a part of you or a time, or maybe right now, where you feel really good about yourself. Because when we feel good about ourselves, not egoically, that's not what I'm talking about, but because we are connected to our inherent worth, when we feel good about ourselves and are connected to our inherent worth, we expand. We have the confidence to make the choices that I've been talking about. And we become more generous. We become more loving. We become more passionate. We become more willing to listen, more capable of connection. And when we're at war with ourselves, we tend to make the world our battlefield. Y'all know what I'm talking about? When we're at peace with ourselves, we have more peace to offer. And this is where our personal transformation becomes bigger than personal, because transformation is contagious. One person changes, and that changes the way we relate. New ways of relating creates new experiences. New experiences create new ways of being. And eventually that new way of being begins influencing everyone around us. You know what I'm talking about? Am I hitting the gear at all? Do I need to shift maybe into 6th gear? It's a little warm in here. I need somebody to turn the thing on, but I'm done. So it's like right about this time, I feel like I'm putting y'all to sleep. Let's go. So good. This is how global transformation begins, folks. It begins personally, and it begins with you, and it begins with me. Not because we're responsible for fixing the entire world. We are responsible. Every interaction is an opportunity to introduce a different consciousness into the world. Every interaction is an opportunity. If I become more compassionate, someone experiences compassion. If I become more present, someone experiences presence. And if I become less reactive, someone has a different experience of conflict. You see how that works? If I become more authentic, I gave someone permission to be authentic. I was crying like a freaking whatever during that song, and I could not stop. And I'm like, girlfriend, you got a few minutes to pull it together before you're getting up here talking. You better stop, because usually I have control better than that. But see, I'm in the midst of transformation. And then I told myself, why do I want to control that? If I'm crying, I'm crying. There's nothing I can do about it, right? But then there's this belief, or this, oh, you got to have it together. You can't get up on stage with tears running down your eyes. What's the matter with you? No, that's what we're talking about. If you need to cry, cry. If you want to hoot, hoot. That's why we love the drumming circles so much, because we hoot and holler and drum and, hum and do all kinds of stuff in that thing. I invite you all to come out and enjoy it at some point. But that's what we're talking about here, is in the midst of transformation, the invitation is to be real and authentic, and to be love, and to ask the inquiry questions that allow you to guide yourself to do that and to be that. Go away from the lens, the judgment, the criticism, the critique. Go within with a beautiful, compassionate inquisition, not a harmful or mean one. And so this week, I invite you to practice the pivot from the lens of judging, and make the decision to practice mirror work every day by asking yourself questions. And I want you to know, because a beloved person gave me a great suggestion and said, when you ask questions at the end of your talk, why don't you print those out so we can take them with us so that we have them for the week? So I did that. So everybody gets a copy of these questions and more for you to take with you, so that you can expand on it through the week when I give you homework, which I'm doing. What do I really want in life? How do I really want? And so, of course, to me, I'm always saying it for us and then for the community, because to me, it's one and the same. What do I really want in life? What do I really want in community? Where is my life going? And what will it take to get me there? Where is this community going? And what will it take to get us there? If I could have any 3 things 5 years from today, what would that be? If this community could have any three things 5 years from today, what would it be? What am I learning about myself and how better to serve our society? What am I learning about this community and how better to serve society? Every night, take inventory of what you learned about yourself. Trust me, this is transformational. So please think about doing it. Write it down. Jot it down in your journal. Yeah, that'd be great if you want to pass these out now, but then they might not hear what I have to say. I'm about done. So it's about moving from analyzing the world through a distorted and biased lens to seeing ourselves clearly in the mirror, recognizing our role and shaping our reality. These questions are designed to foster self-awareness, humility, and a capacity for transformational change because the power, the presence, the intelligence, and the love is already here. We're not creating it. It's already here. The question isn't whether spirit is present. The question is whether The question is whether we are present enough to recognize it and allow it to flow through every aspect of our being and our lives. The baby opened her eyes and the doctor saw something that he had never seen before. Spirit is opening our eyes. Spirit is opening our hearts. The people we encounter are inviting us to see differently. The people we encounter, our circumstances are inviting us to go deeper. Perhaps our own reflection is saying, there is more of you here. There is more of you here. So maybe that is the sacred invitation of this season of transformation. Stop looking at what needs to change in the world. It's becoming willing to see what is ready to change within you, because social change is deeply connected to our own healing, reflection, and well-being. And when communities change, the consciousness of the world begins to rise. It's imperative, folks. It's imperative. So let us go within, listen, become willing to see, to become willing to heal, become willing to be transformed. And so it is. Thank you.